So, hello everybody. Renee Dinnerstein, and I'm going to be talking with a group of parents today about parenting during the pandemic, which is a really issue that's on so many people's minds. The people I'm speaking with today are Dana Roth, who was born and raised in Brooklyn. She lives with her 2.5-year-old son, Ricky, in the same house she grew up in. She's grateful to have her parents close by and a nice sized backyard to get through these rough times with a very active toddler. Dana is a kindergarten teacher and has been teaching for 18 years. She just returned to work full time after being on leave for 2 years. While on leave, Dana had the opportunity to work part-time as an intervention teacher. Then the next two are, they come together as a package. Katie Rust Brown and Sheldon Brown are parents of 2 young children, Rose, who's almost 2, and Harper, who's 5. And they're living in Brooklyn. Harper, 5, Rose is 1, but almost 2, right, Sheldon?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Katie is a 3rd grade teacher at Compass Charter School, and Sheldon is a support teacher at the co-op school. Throughout the pandemic, Katie has been working remotely from home, and Sheldon has been working on site. Christy Ziegler is my neighbor on First Street, and she's a stay-at-home mom of Henry, a 2nd grader, and a very busy Elise, a 2.5-year-old. Prior to having children, she was a corporate meeting planner and uses her organizational and project management skills to run the household in a constantly changing environment. Her 2020 resolutions were to spend more time with friends and to start a book club. She accomplished 1 out of 2, which isn't too shabby, even in a non-COVID world. Christy is originally from Kansas and has a degree in international affairs and business management from Sweetbriar College in Virginia. Pierre Imbriano has a daughter, Max, who's 11. She is a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant. In what feels like a previous lifetime, when Pierre was attending Bryn Mawr College, she worked as an assistant teacher at the Montessori, do I pronounce it Phoebe Anna Thorne School?
Phoebe Anna.
Phoebe Anna Thorne School, on ages preschool through 1st grade. She moved on to work in human services, which had focused program areas of public health and education, among others. In recent years, Pierre co-chaired the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee at PS 321, where Christy's son goes to school and where I used to teach, and my son-in-law teaches, and had also been elected to the school leadership team, where she worked closely with administrators, teachers, and parents to help support its movement towards becoming an anti-racist school. Pierre was very involved in the advocacy for and community development of the District 15 integration plan. And Melissa Toogood has a 2.5-year-old son, Hudson, and she is a Bessie Award-winning performer. She is Artistic Associate Rehearsal Director and Dancer for Pam Tanowitz Dance. As a freelance performer, teacher, and stager, she has worked with many companies and institutions. Originally from Sydney, Australia, she is now based in Brooklyn, New York with her husband and her 2.5-year-old son. So it's quite a group here. And it's interesting that there's a bunch of 2 and 2.5-year-olds here in this group too. I thought I would start by just asking you, like, well, last week I spoke with a group of teachers who were taking their classes before COVID out into the forest, into the park, out into nature. And they talked about the incredibly positive effect that this had on so many aspects of the children's social life, on their learning, on their classroom behavior. And I'm wondering during this time, this COVID time, if any of you have been able to actually go out with your child or children and enjoy nature at all in any way. Christy, I know you have because I saw that. That's why I actually thought of you to begin with. I saw those beautiful pictures of Elise and you in Prospect Park. Yeah.
Yep, I'm taking the kids up to the park some. Mostly we tend to use either backyard and they help me garden or play a lot along the block. Definitely getting my older child out is a lot easier in some ways than the younger one. One of her early trips outside the house, she decided to lick the public school. So she's been very restricted by
Oh boy.
plowed up. But you know, we try to get out and about and set up some play dates in the park and different games that the kids can do.
Right, right. Katie, you don't have a backyard where you are, Sheldon, right? But you're near the park there, I think, and you're also you're near the water where you are, right? You're in Bay Ridge, right? So, do you get out with the girls?
Yeah, we do. Katie is at home with them because she's teaching remote. So she usually gets them out, walks them around Bay Ridge. We have the water.
We are lucky enough to have a courtyard that's not, it's not perfect, it's not a huge lawn, but the pathways and the tiny bits of grass have become used a lot. Harper and I did some gardening out there. You know, even the ramp down to the laundry room has become a favorite, you know, just rolling balls down it. I mean, whatever we can do. We also, yeah, we've started to explore some new places in the city. You know, I'm lucky enough to work at Compass where we really can get the kids out a lot. And during our bird study years ago, we used to explore all the natural spaces in New York City. So we kind of started doing that. So we went to Forest Park in Queens. We went to the Ramble in Central Park. You know, we've gone to some places we really wouldn't have gone otherwise. We're lucky also to have a car, Jamaica Bay.
Yeah.
We're also lucky enough to have a car to be able to get up and do that. Before we had the car and when it's not available, it's tougher. It is tougher for sure. But just a little bit of air makes a very big difference. It's a very significant difference when the kids are outside in a day, and the days that it just doesn't happen are much more difficult for sure.
Right, right. Melissa, I've seen pictures of you outside with Hudson on good old Facebook.
We don't have any outdoor space, our apartment. So the first couple of months were really hard because we weren't going out. And now the place we mainly go is Greenwood Cemetery, actually. It's been an absolute haven for us. It's beautiful and it's huge. And they generously opened all the gates every day of the week once everything happened. So like our gate initially that was closest for us to enter was only open on weekends, and now it's open every day. Especially in the summer when the Prospect Park was so crowded, we tended to go there much more often. Now that kids are back in school, we'll go to the park more during the week because my son's not into school age yet. So
right, Dana, you have a backyard, right? So is that what you use?
My backyard has been my savior from day one, just to get him out. And I did form like a little pod with my best friend and her 2-year-old and my cousin and his 2-year-old. So we used our backyard. We created our own little camp over the summer and got the kids together. And I just generally feel like a lot of my outings are a little more planned than they used to. I mean, not the backyard. We go out to the backyard daily, but going any place else, I feel like I plan ahead more than I ever have before. Yeah. I feel like I'm usually more like a spur of the moment. Where should we go today? Let's do it. But I've just been more intentional in trying to plan where a safe place to go and get out. We went hiking a few times. I stayed away from Prospect Park because it seemed very crowded based on like neighborhood posts of people complaining, people not being safe. And but yeah, the backyard has been my savior. It's been great.
What's it like with an 11-year-old?
That is a great question because it's very different now. It's kind of like during COVID, actually, she just changed. She just became a totally different person. Going from 5th grade to 6th grade. And I had heard stories of this, but I don't think I was ready. So it's been pretty amazing though, actually. She's been thriving during this time. She has been completely independent. And I will say the beginning was probably harder for me than her We also live in an apartment. We also weren't able to get out very much, like Melissa explained. But we did go to the fire escape daily. And that was like thrilling to her. That was fun. And so, and when we went to the fire escape, we had neighbors that also were on there. So we all like planned a time to go out and say hi. And so it was very community oriented in a lot of ways. And that kind of helped to get through the challenges of losing your 5th grade, right? Like losing the 5th grade was kind of challenging, to be honest. And she was used to going outdoors every day. And then, over the summer, it was so crowded. We live on an avenue block, and just to even get outside, because they're restaurants and no one wears masks even now, you know, and they're all sitting there eating, it's very challenging to even just get outside the door of the building. And so what we would do is we would plan to leave. We started doing these planned outings. We're very lucky that we also have a car. And so we would literally plan to drive, you know, either up to Westchester, where we have family, or we would just go to, instead of going to Prospect Park, we'd go to Van Cortlandt Park, believe it or not. And we could just hike for hours and not see anyone. It was beautiful. So we were very lucky that way. And she also is part of an after school program that is so incredibly cautious and careful. We trust them incredibly. It's called Run for Fun. And she does track twice a week through the park, and the time that they do it is safer than if I were to take her for a walk, to be honest. It's less crowded, there are less people there now, so it's worked out really well, and she's been thriving, surprisingly. You know, like she goes out a couple times a day, she meets up with her friends, like in a very controlled, socially distanced way with the after school, and it's been working really well. But it has made me very aware, especially going from elementary school to middle school, of the kind of differences that exist for folks having access to the park, having access to outside and things of that nature. And so, you know, we've had a lot of discussions about that, and she's at the age where we can, so she appreciates being able to kind of go out more, I think.
Right. Where is she going to middle school? What school does she go to?
She's going to Park Slope Collegiate, which we love. Although I honestly, like a true New Yorker, I almost don't want to say how much we love it. Like I want to keep it to myself. but we love it. It's an incredible school, and I'll just say this really quickly because I think it's important. They did something that I haven't seen since I actually went to Bryn Mawr, which is the week before the school started. They had a program called Circles, where all the kids in their cohorts, because she's actually doing the hybrid program, and they had all the kids in the cohorts, but even the remote students had this too, where they all would meet and talk and get to know each other, so that they actually felt very safe once school started. And they have a really safe space.
Right.
And during this period of time, I mean, it's like, we really feel so fortunate that we hit the lottery there, because during this period of time, you can't ask for more than your child to feel like safe physically and emotionally, you know?
Absolutely, physical and the emotional part too.
Emotionally, yeah.
I wonder about when I walk down the street and like on First Street, right, and I see these 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds walking around with face masks on. I wonder, like, what do they think about it? Or do they think about it? I mean, is it just so natural for them now that is it more of an issue for a 7-year-old than for a 2.5-year-old? I don't know. What do you think about that, Christy? Is it different with Henry and Elise in terms of how they feel about all of this and what they're expressing?
I mean, I think that they've both taken very easily to the mask. Elise is more cognizant of never ever walking out the front door without a mask, and will yell for it even if we're just taking trash out or whatever. But she's also the one more likely to tire of it at a certain point and pull it off. And we kind of have to struggle with that. Whereas Henry seems to have had no problem with putting it on, going to school all day, wearing it, and just not really complaining or commenting much about it at all.
Right. How has school been for him going back?
Well, he had one day.
I know that was, you know,
but
cases of COVID there, so they closed till after vacation.
Yeah. So unfortunately, he only got 1 day back in person, but he really enjoyed it. He's in good class, really loves his teacher, and they've done a really good job of transitioning on the fully remote schedule as well, so that he's all together with his class. And then he's very lucky that, I don't know if it's just by chance or that the school planned it, but one of his classmates in his cohort of 7 kids is on our block. And so we've been able to line it up that occasionally we'll come out and have recess time together in between their Zooms, and
Right.
those two run up and down the block.
I wonder about like this whole idea of pods and children in pods, because I've been thinking about it as I see the children running around on the block. I mean, I wonder, are they all in pods together? Because I see a lot of the kids on our block, Christy, running around and playing together, right? So like, how do you deal with that? I mean, is that an issue at all?
Well, we do have 3 kids on our block that are all in the same preschool pod, where they do, I guess, I believe they are unmasked around each other. And so those families are aware that they are all kind of podded together naturally. We are not, we're playing with some of the kids, but not unmasking at the moment, because we're also seeing my in-laws who are at risk. So we just do outdoors with a mask, but they can play and then come in and wash off, and hope that that's enough of a distance to make it work.
Right, right.
We've also created a number of games like over the fence, playing frisbee or playing different things from a distance.
I know, I like going out back and watching and listening to the kids playing, because I actually miss the sound of children playing. So for me, that's fun to go out back and to hear them, and to kind of try to figure out which yard they're coming from and all of that. So is there, like, what's been the positive parts then for you? You started to, I mean, I'm hearing a little bit of it, but there been any positive aspects to this?
Well, Elise has been very, very happy having the whole family home. My husband hasn't been into the office since March 14th or something. And she just loves the idea that everyone's available at all times. And while it's a little ahead of schedule, Henry's gotten much better at technology than he ever would have been at this age, which has been great to see him grow and learn and become a little more independent in that way.
Right, right. What about with Harper? Like, how is she dealing with this? Harper's very energetic. I remember that about Harper. She's doing
really well. She's home full time, all remote with me. I mean, this has come in a lot of different phases. Initially when we were all here out of nowhere quarantined, it was actually okay for a little while, but it became tough after a month or 2 or 3. She started to have a really difficult time, especially because, it really was just open spaces for a while, and we were kind of running out of ideas. We didn't have a car at that time, so it was like, how long can we go to the empty field down the block until it's a little tired. But there was a time when we were going to playgrounds a little bit. She would stay masked, and that actually was really, really helpful. We've since stopped that, obviously. So we have just tried to keep her busy with things that she loves and have some patience. We made a rule very early on that if something either of the kids are doing is just annoying and nothing else, then just let it go. So if it's loud and annoying, but it's not dangerous and it's not harmful and it's not unsafe, and then let it be annoying and loud, and it is what it is. Being in a house of kids isn't easy 24 hours a day, but we're trying to be flexible too. I guess that's one of the positives too, is learning to be patient, flexible ourselves.
Yeah.
Melissa, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Like, to pile on to what Katie said, I think the communication between us has actually been very good, because we've had to work together. Sometimes, going one-on-one with the kids is better than, being all together as a, full unit, and just communicating and being plastic and flexible. I think has been really, really great. And like, we've been able to build and work on that as a couple. And like, that's been great, you know? And just spending more time with everybody as a whole has been great too. So, you know, like just really connecting and not really being, you know, ships in the night and everybody being in and out and doing this and that, you know, soccer and this. Everybody's just kind of like, okay, cool. We get home, family time. It's been nice.
The biggest thing that's made this successful for us, quarantining with 2 young children, is that the focus is on the right thing. If the focus was on keeping them up to grade level and making sure they're meeting these benchmarks and stuff, we would be going crazy. Because you know, to be honest, we are surrounded by, we both work at schools that really believe in the emotional health of a child and social health of a child and keeping them happy and safe. And surely they're learning, I can hear it and I can see it, but it's really not our main focus is what they're doing in school or if they're meeting standards. And we're lucky to be surrounded by friends and family and both of our workplaces that support that. So we've been able to stay sane by focusing on keeping them happy and joyful. And if they, you know, make some progress academically otherwise, that's great too. But if that was our main goal, we might be going crazy for sure.
Melissa, when I was watching you dance, when I was watching the streaming from the Joyce Theater, I was wondering how can you get ready for something like that and take care of your 2.5-year-old? Is your husband at home, or like how are you doing this? It sounds like a real challenge, you know.
It has been, for sure. You know, my job is very physical and I can't do that. I mean, it takes 48 hours for your muscles to atrophy. So it's been like 10 months now. So it wasn't easy, you know, even trying to just cut out, okay, I'm going to take 20 minutes to do like a yoga glow. It's hard, but after a few months, we really realized we needed to focus on like scheduling time for myself and for my husband to do what we needed to do to feel sane in ourselves, at least just a little bit. And once we got better at doing that, we got better at taking care of Hudson as well. And yeah, the show was a little bit unexpected and great because we've both mostly been out of work this whole time. So yeah, that wasn't easy, but in relation to Hudson, I mean, he was so used to going on the road with me all the time. And now this is like the longest period of time that he's actually just been at home and we've been at home. So I'm more worried about the next time we can fly and is he gonna
right. I know somebody mentioned to me that this has been a wonderful time for pets and babies because everybody's home, you know, and
we actually did give him some fish.
Okay.
He was traveling all the time. We were never going to get pets. So I'm like, okay, this looks like it's lasting a while. So he loves them. He feeds them every day. So he's a part of all of that. It seemed like a nice thing that we could do now that we're home that he would be a part of. Right. And yeah, it's definitely, it takes constantly rearranging how to organize our day. We're very lucky. He's a pretty easygoing kid. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of it just kind of depends on your child's temperament. Every child is so different. And like he had no problem with the mask wearing, like that's just not been an issue for him. We're like, whew, okay, that's one thing we don't have to worry about. He's like, Mom, if it starts to slip down, and I'm like, okay, you do better than most adults with having it over your nose and your mouth. Yeah, so like little wins, yay.
So Pierre, your daughter is older than the others, and I'm actually thinking of Pierre's daughter, of Harper, and of Henry, right? Who are the others are really pretty young. Like, are there any anxieties that they're showing or fears or like, what are you noticing? You know, what are you noticing Are you noticing anything?
I mean, she is starting middle school, so there's just anxiety anyway, I
Right.
think.
That's right. That's
So then it's like on top of that, we have this. And, you know, I don't know if she would agree with me right now, but maybe later she might agree with me. That I think, you know, you asked what some of the benefits are, and I think the benefits are that we can see the anxieties as they come and we can deal with them right away because we're all together. And so, you know, it's funny, we always think of like with toddlers, and if they're going on the monkey bars, we always think we have to spot them, right? We know we have to spot them. It's a very clear cut, common sense thing. But with social media, people forget that, right? People forget that with social media, with technology, you still have to spot your children as if they're toddlers. You know, it's just a different thing that you're spotting them for. And I would say there have been times where, you know, I mean, I feel like we're still learning how to navigate social media. It changes so regularly. And so seeing her navigate it has been really amazing at times. She's really good at navigating it. And at the same time, there are times where there's anxiety, right? And it's like the typical middle school anxiety, but amplified because it's online and it doesn't end. It's in your home. You know what I mean? Like you can't get away from it. It's actually right here in our living room. So where for my age group, it's like once you had something at school, once you left home, it was gone, right? You were with your family, you were with your unit, and this generation doesn't have that luxury. Mm-hmm. But because the silver lining is because we are all together, we can see these things right away. We can talk about it. We can work through it. And she can kind of land on her feet in a way that I'm not so sure we would even have the awareness that we have if it were a regular school year, to be honest.
Right, right. You're there with her all the time.
Yeah.
Right. I'll still know she's lucky someday. Dana, what about the teaching and taking care of a 2.5-year-old? Because I know Dana, I know what kind of teacher she is. She, you know, like you don't partially teach, you wholeheartedly teach. Every part of you is in your teaching. So how are you dealing with that part?
It was a really hard transition, going back full time. So I was with Ricky, you know, 4 out of 7 days. And then all summer, it was just us. And then all of a sudden came September and he started preschool and I went back to work full time. And it was a lot. Maybe it took me longer to get into the swing of things than for him, but there was guilt on all ends. Like it was all this guilt that I wasn't spending enough time with him and all this guilt that I wasn't putting enough effort into my work and into my students and 2 separate cohorts and trying to get to know the kids and, you know, not connecting with parents the way we typically do. And that's usually really important for me, but because it's from a distance, they're no longer coming into the classroom. So it was a hard transition back into work. And then the beginning of the school year was so wonky because we were supposed to start, but then there was that pushback. It didn't start right away. But I will say the nice part of that is I got to know the kids on Zoom first. So on the first day, because the parents couldn't come up, the kids were actually really excited to run to the line because they already knew what I looked like and they knew their classmates. But it was a really tough transition. I think guilt comes with parenting across the board. And I feel like this transition just added that guilt even more so.
Right. So how do you all take care of yourself? I mean, that's a big thing now, because if you're taking care of children so intensely during this time, you know, much differently than pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID, you know, if you're not taking care of yourself, right, then it's going to have an effect on your children, right? So what are you doing to take care of yourself? Anything that you could recommend to people or that you could share that's been really positive?
For me, I started, like I said earlier, a bit of potting with my best friend and my cousins. Our kids are all the same age, so at least it gave them the socialization, but it gave us time to just be around other humans, other adults to just hang out and talk with, have a glass of wine, you know, a hike in peace where the kids just got to be kids together and we were able to step back. Because I think too much parent and toddler time together, you don't let a toddler just be a toddler if you're just with them. And it's hard when you don't have that time to just get out how you typically would. So that was my sanity, is just finally getting together with some friends and letting go of that a little bit.
Right. Christy, were you able to get your book club going?
We were. We started it in January, had our first meeting in February, our second meeting barely in March that some people came to. It was in that unknown, schools are still open time. And then we managed to transition really well to Zoom. And I'm very surprised, but everyone has kept up with it. And it's kind of been our one thing to look forward to. And, you know, once a month where I tell my husband, you're in charge of all of bedtime. I'm getting a glass of wine, my book, and my Zoom, and I'll talk to you later.
Right. It's important. That's really important. I also know the Facebook is amazing because you see all these things. I know that you have date night, and that I've been impressed with that, with your date nights.
Yes, some date nights have just been waiting until kids go to bed and either ordering in something special for us or making something special or just something we don't want to hear a complaint about.
Right, right.
And otherwise, we did have my in-laws took the kids one weekend, or now 2 weekends, and that was amazing. We actually had a night and a morning off, which was incredible.
Melissa, have you been able to do things that just are for you during this time?
Yes, yeah. You know, when my husband starts to see me losing it, he's like, okay, we really need to make sure we make time for you to like take a class or like do stuff. Because when I'm physically taking care of myself, I feel better emotionally and spiritually, because it's what I've always done my whole life. So I'm lucky that he usually notices when that's like not working for me. So that, but also I think just doing fun things as a family. Like we, friends of ours left town for a couple months. So they're like, can you take our car? And I was like, oh, okay, maybe we could do things. So we went to like this little cabin for a couple of days, like things that we don't usually get to do. Just, you know, we're used to making a vacation out of a tour, like a work, extending work or something. And so just to take a trip was really nice for the three of us. So that is really great, because honestly this year I was going to be working a lot, and I was kind of wondering how I was going to manage it. So the silver lining is that I have really been able to spend a lot of time with Hudson, and there's been huge jumps in his development just after turning 2, and I feel like I probably would have missed a lot of that. So it's been nice to do family things actually that aren't work related or trying to steal an hour from something else. It's just like the whole day do something, the three of us.
Right. It's wonderful when lemonade comes out of lemons. Yeah. Right? Here, what about you? Do you find that you have time to take care of yourself? I mean, maybe it's easier with an 11-year-old. I don't know.
It is.
You're also going to school too, so that's.
Yeah, she's been going. I mean, but school has been remote because you know, for a while actually. So when she was in school, that was exciting, you know, for her and for us. But admittedly, I'm working, so my time went there. What I would say that I've done for self-care, you know, we come from a multi-generational household. We don't. While my parents don't live here, like we always saw them constantly. Like we made sure we moved here because they were here, we stayed here, you know, like, so this has been really challenging that way. And so to kind of take care of that, what we've been doing is we have like a Sunday dinner Zoom where every Sunday with my parents and with extended family, we like get together and we either talk or we like play games or we like watch a movie and then, you know, together. And so that's been really helpful. And I try to reach out to them once a day, which actually has given me like peace of mind. And I talk to them more than probably I would have otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also take a class. I'm studying something right now called botany, and it's at the University of Alaska. And in a lot of ways, it would make me absolutely exhausted, and I'd want to pull my hair out because the classes are 4 hours later than there. You know, so like I'm in class at 11:30 p.m. But it's exciting because like it's almost like feeling like I'm younger and I'm having a life again, because at 11:30 p.m. I'm like talking to classmates, we're like having fun, we're like laughing,
Right.
and it's been a joy actually. So that's been nice.
So Katie and Sheldon, how do you two take care of yourselves? Do you find time to just take care of yourself outside of being a mom and a dad and a teacher?
You have to kind of claim it. You know, you're like, I claim my time. She says that sometimes. Yeah, she does. But I've kind of just got a new hobby. I started to draw recently. I just started drawing. It's like nice because when I'm not, I like kind of carve out my time and do it by myself. And I'm like, okay, babies that way, wife, I don't go. I'm just gonna sit here and draw and listen to music and vibe out. But then I've also been able to enjoy that with Harper, because she's a artist herself in her own right, and so we've been able to sit down and spend one-on-one time together and draw. And so I've been able to share my hobby with her, so that's been great. And that kind of invigorates me. That it keeps me going. I don't know what she's gonna say, but she's been really into plants lately.
Well, I was gonna joke I don't have any new hobbies or anything. I mean, I was kind of joking with people, when the quarantine happened, everyone said, oh, well, what about like going out to eat and stuff? And like my social life stopped, 5 years ago when I had kids. Like we've been at home since then anyway. So, I mean, the biggest thing I do for myself is just like cut myself some slack, honestly. Like I have a break in the middle of the day for about an hour and a half. When I try and get the kids out for a walk. And even like yesterday, it was kind of rainy. It was really bad out. The baby was crying, and I put them in the double stroller, and I said, like, we're not doing this. We're just not. Today we're not doing it, because I just couldn't do it. I knew it was not going to go well. And like, I just read the signs and I said, you know what, we're just not doing it. Like, let's put on a movie. And there are days where I just have to do that. I have to make these calls and we do, together as well, of like, this is going to work today. This is not going to work today. It's okay. We plan to do this. It's okay. The dishes are there. It's okay that this is there. Like, just cutting ourselves a little slack, because, it's easy to get in this zone where like, we're very lucky that we both have jobs. We have a home. The kids are healthy. Like, it's easy to get in a zone to think that we should be able to still keep up with everything. But every so often I remember, like, yes, I'm home all day and I don't have a commute, but there's a lot to get done. And every so often I remember to cut myself a little slack and not, just try and do it all or get it all done exactly how we kind of thought. So that's been really helpful. And sometimes we need reminders too for one another of like, it's gonna be okay. You're taking on a lot and we're both taking on a lot, and we'll all be all right.
Well, it seems like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I can kind of feel this light there, see a little inkling of it. And I woke up the other day after having had a dream where I went for a haircut, but on the way to get my haircut, I stopped to get a manicure and a pedicure. And when I finished getting my haircut, I went for a massage. And then I woke up and I said, oh no, none of that. But it's in the future. It's something to look forward to. And I think I'm really impressed actually with the way all of you have, created something very positive with your children out of this time. I mean, I really think about, we're actually all kind of lucky in that, some of you have cars, some have backyards, there's a park nearby, I think about families that have very different struggling lifestyles and wonder, how in the world are they getting through this? And I wish there was something that I could do, that would be helpful. And I don't quite know, it's frustrating because I don't quite know what to do, but it's so positive to see the way all of you have been handling this. And I want to thank you all for sharing this. And I look forward to seeing you in the street when this is all over, and Melissa going to see another performance of the Pam Tanowitz dancers. And now I know you from the neighborhood, in the neighborhood now, Pierre. I didn't know you before. And so anyway, thank you all so much. And I hope that is a very positive thing in the very near future for all of us. And I think your children are very lucky to have such wonderful parents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
Happy holidays, everybody.
You too. Yes, a very happy holiday. Yes.